Howdy, Hacksters! I am so excited because it is Tuesday, and that means we've got some cool people on here to talk about electronics, specifically open source electronics. And these are the most open sourcey of the open source electronics people. They are from the Open Source Hardware Association. Please welcome Sid drmay and Lee Wilkins, who are, well, could you each tell us exactly what your title is relating to the upcoming Open Hardware Summit?
I am the summit chair, so I'm responsible for the programming and the general wrangling of the summit.
Cool.
And I am the fellowship chair and also community coordinator. So I run the fellowship and then make sure that all of our social posts go out at a good time.
Nice. I'm very excited to dive in a little bit to what the fellowship is in a minute. But first up, you may have joined because you saw that we have a Hackster exclusive promo code for the event. So it's May 3rd to 4th in Montreal. A couple of cool venues that I'd love to ask you about as well, actually. First time in these venues. But what is our promo code?
It is Hackster Love.
Yeah, all one word.
All one word.
So if you want to go get a ticket right now at the link in the description, there's a bunch of links to stuff we're going to be talking about, but also top front and center is where you can go to get your ticket. So dump in that Hackster Love promo code and you can get, I think it's 15% off. I could be wrong, with an N on the end, 15. Very exciting. There's also a bunch of, so let's just go take a quick look at the page and get that out of the way. So it is beautiful. You'll have these wonderful, Lee, did you do the graphics for this? Am I wrong?
No, this is by Enna Kim, who is a Toronto-based artist, and they do just like the coolest, weird, organic, techie style, and I'm so excited about this art.
It's so good. Look at this little guy. Y'all have, yeah, previous years have also had excellent little sort of like electronic characters. Here we got our wonderful guests here, and then you can click on here to see the tickets. So there is the Eventbrite, and there's a bunch of different levels of tickets. So you can support the fellowship if, for example, your work is sending you. You can go and grab that ticket. If you're a regular attendee, you're just going for yourself, you can go there. You've got low-income tickets. You've got virtual supporters. So that's like you can attend virtually for free. Awesome. There's also a virtual supporter level. And then Indigenous attendees attend for free, which is awesome. Also, I'd love to talk about this hat, but would you like to expand on these any before we jump into that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, totally. I mean, first of all, the support the fellowship super attendee ticket level is really, really helpful for us as far as running the fellowship. Generally, all of the money that we get from that goes right back into the fellowship, making sure that we can have 10 different fellows from just a variety of different backgrounds be able to get to the summit, as well as have a little bit of a stipend for professional development, so they can also improve their practice, get new items for their space, be able to get to the summit. And then also leading up to it, we do a bunch of different mentor talks to really engage folks and get them really involved with what open source can be and just the variety of ways that they can interact with it. These are some of our fellows this year. We're pretty excited about this crew. The way the fellowship also works, we do it entirely as a blind vote where our board will look at the answers that our fellows have provided for a couple of pretty simple questions. And then we blind vote and 10 folks get the fellowship. So it's a pretty straightforward process, and we really like doing it because it just means that we can get a variety of people at the summit.
Yeah. So whether you're attending in person here or virtually, either way, you can get a supporter ticket that will help bring more fascinating people who are doing cool stuff with hardware to the summit. And I love, there's always so many cool people there. In the past, I actually put together a YouTube playlist of a bunch of different ones. So last year we had Sid on to talk about Open Hardware Summit along with Aisha, who was doing a certification for Open Hardware Month, but also you can see a bunch of different videos I took with people who were there last year. Oh man, I think it's Dr. Huishupeng had this amazing talk about kirigami circuits with Kapton tape and like copper plates. It was incredible. They like fold themselves. So many cool people doing cool stuff. But I'm gonna be quiet now and let you all talk a little bit more about this because you're the stars of the show. So yeah, what's up with this hat?
Yeah, the hat. I mean, obviously, Anna's art is incredible, and we wanted to find more ways to incorporate art into the conference. And this integrated circuit hat just seemed kind of like a really easy solution for that. We've noticed that a lot of folks in our community really like to have cool clothes, very cool clothes that kind of reflects their personal style, and also just like our love of open source technology, just like having a fun time in those ways. And something like this, like the integrated circuit hat, is like a very easy sell for us when we were trying to figure out different ways we could do stuff. We're like, a hat would be very fun and cool.
It does look extremely fun and cool. It's not my exact style, but I'm really excited to see other people around wearing them. Like you mentioned, there's always people with sweet outfits, yourselves included. There was a sort of flight suit theme last year. Is that going to continue this year? What can we expect to see on the runway of the Art Summit?
There's a chance that there'll be some coordination again.
We're pretty committed to having a team style. We also have like a secret item for attendees. It's a bandana. It is, we're calling it our PCB, pretty cool bandana. And so our fresh PCBs are going to drop, and we're really super excited about them. I am not wearing one. I've been wearing it every day for the whole week, but for some reason I'm not wearing it today, but extremely cool.
I'm so excited. I do love a bandana. I will absolutely wear a bandana. That is awesome. There's more stuff, interesting stuff on the attend page here as well. I dug into that. Here we go.
Yeah,
so you got the, you what?
Yeah, we got just like some basic attending info that's super helpful for folks that are trying to figure out if it'll work for them this year.
Where to stay.
So you can check out the YouTube page for Oshawa, which not only will have the talks from this year, but also has playlists from 2022, 2023. You can check out all the different stuff people have been doing as part of Oshawa. Lots of different cool stuff up there already, and that's also where you can check out recordings from this year. And then there's also a link to the Discord.
Yeah, the Discord is like integral, especially for the online experience. We really want to make sure that this is like a very hybrid experience. Like, we're very committed to making sure that if you're attending virtually, you're still getting an incredible experience. So a lot of our, we have kind of things like the talks are live streamed as they're happening. And then after the talk is over, our speakers will be in the Discord doing their Q&A in the Discord, so that it's not just people that are in person that get to have that kind of one-on-one time, discussion time with the speakers. Everyone that's attending virtually and on the Discord will get to have time and discuss the ideas that came up during the speakers' talks. And then we're also making sure to utilize it so that you can see what people are tabling with, what sponsors are tabling with, what there's some stuff for like the workshops, keeping track of like different things that are happening, and then also running the fully virtual unconference at the same time as we're doing the unconference on day 2. So
yeah, let's talk a bit about that, because I'm kind of excited about it. It might be totally chaotic, but that's what we're here for. So in our effort to try to make as many people be able to attend the summit as possible, day 2 is going to be it's going to be all workshops and all unconference. So there's like 4 different rooms going on, and people can go between everything. But we're also hoping to extend. Well, no, we're not hoping to. We are going to be extending that into our virtual space. So we're going to have like a call in the Discord for unconference topics, and we're going to set up some unconference rooms that are just online. So we're not necessarily going to try to mix those spaces. We're just going to have like exclusively online spaces where people can just join in discussion rooms live and just like have an unconference of their own, kind of in parallel to the one that's happening on day 2. So we know something we've noticed is just that, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows this, it's really hard to give people the exact same experience that they're having in person as online. So we're just trying to run 2 parallel things that give people like a different but also good experience.
I love that. It makes me think of like film adaptations of books that I love. It's like a separate beast. It's like the same kinds of like characters and people that you love, and at the same time, it's like you get an experience that is actually good for that format. You're not just like kind of secondary or an afterthought. Pat Dooley says, "Love the art." Thank you, Pat. Yeah, it's amazing as always. More of that beautiful art on the speakers page. So I got really excited when I saw that Danielle is keynoting. This is Danielle is on our Oshawa list. Or actually, no, she's not, because this was not Oshawa themed. But we've had her on Hackster Café, this weekly show that you are watching right now, in the past, and you can go watch that for more about Danielle. But please tell us a little bit more about just like how did you end up with Danielle as keynote? What are you excited about?
I feel like her name came up really early. Like, I feel like her name was something we threw around pretty quick after the 2023 conference. We were like, this person is doing incredibly cool stuff and we would love to be able to work with her. So,
and for the past 3 years, we've been like working really hard to have people who, you know, have like a range of different perspectives on tech. So in 2022, sorry, my years are all messed up. We had Ashley Jane Lewis, who was talking about Afrofuturism and like the role of like tech and like slime mold as tech and all this like cool speculative stuff. And it was really, really awesome. And then last year we had Carlotta Berry talking about like open source hardware in the streets, and it was really awesome and inspiring. And this year we're having Danielle just kind of continue that trend of like stuff you might not necessarily like think of when you think open source tech, like, you know, just something all these like really cool perspectives we're just trying to highlight. So I mean, I love like Danielle obviously has like super cool style, is doing super important work, and I'm just so excited to have her.
Incredible stuff. I have to note
work is incredible, and the Every Kid Gets a Robot program is so cool.
Yeah,
like, it's so important. Every kid should get a robot.
Yeah.
They're made with recycled filament. She does all this amazing educational outreach, and you can volunteer to help these folks as well. You can donate and volunteer in various ways. I think if you can 3D print, you can get involved in some way. But this is the Every Kid Gets a Robot Ekgar. So cool. She's been doing this for years. I do have to note at this point. What?
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead.
Well, I have to note at this point, you do not have to have amazing fashion to go to OHS. I know it's come up a few times, and you may be a bit intimidated, but you don't have to care about that at all. Even though it's like,
you don't have to. You don't have to.
Despite the impressions you may be getting, you can have regular hair. You don't have to have a
it's worth noting that people kind of joke about this a lot. On the internet, I've noticed, but there's a big joke about Canada having terrible style. It's true.
No.
People in Canada will, in fact, go everywhere in pajama pants, and they will not care. So you're welcome to do that too. You can come to the summit in your PJs. We will not care.
Absolutely. Awesome. If you're cozy, we love it.
Yeah, we love to be comfortable above everything. Comfortable, and then anything else.
Yeah. There is a code of conduct, but wearing high fashion is not on it. You do not have to do that. Yeah. This is more for just like making sure that people feel safe and great.
Yeah, our code of conduct is really just based around making sure that everyone in the space is, you know, there in good faith, wants to communicate with each other, wants to build with each other, and wants to, you know, have all those ideas of what it means to work in open source is to be willing to share and work together. So
and also just
really what it does.
Like taking the time to like acknowledge that like people don't often mean to be bad to each other, you know? We're all trying our best.
This came up when I was at Noisebridge back in the day. There was a time when we were starting to move from or there was a contingent who were starting to move from the old rule, which is basically one rule, be excellent to each other, and then people trying to institute a code of conduct. And there were some really interesting conversations around that. For example, like there wasn't really one rule, because like we also had the rule of don't like live there or we'll get kicked off our lease, for example.
Classic makerspace.
Classic. Especially once someone put the hacker stackers in, which were like bunk beds for sleep hacking. But anyway, another part of the conversation was like, this is for those people who as well who aren't sure of like whether their behavior is okay, or like if you're afraid of hurting someone's feelings and like getting socially excluded, like this gives you a guide for like how to act in some ways. It's like for everyone's a good experience.
Yeah, and like
Cool.
some things we've also included in the code of conduct are just like, like we totally get that like sometimes people are just like super excited about something and you just want to talk about it a lot, and then sometimes to be like very mindful of the room, very just mindful of who you're talking to, and just like kind of reminds people to just take a minute and just like make sure that you aren't accidentally doing something. And if you are, like, we're not here to punish you. We're like, our goal is not to like, to get mad at people. Our goal is to like just like have a little chat, be like, hey, like, what can we do to make the space feel better? And like, how can we all like work on this together? Like, especially things like code of conduct, they're always like in flux. It's always a conversation. We're also learning our best, so it's a community effort.
And it's worth noting here as well, actually, if you have questions around this, as well as here at the top, like, depending on what ticket you're getting, also, if cost to attend is a barrier, you can email them. It says email us in a few places around this, and I'm assuming if people have questions around the code of conduct as well, they could email you. But just to show people, the email address for the summit is summit@oshawa.org. It's at the bottom of the page. You can find that there, as well as the credentials or the attribution for Anna Kim. And I'm going to go follow them now.
Actually, emailing us is like such a, like, we're so open to working with folks on what their needs are, especially when it comes to accessing the conference itself. Like, we know that, finances are difficult. Money kind of changes, comes and goes. We're all kind of trying to just survive in this world. So we really do want people to be at the conference. So if cost is a barrier, like, please email us. Like, we want to be able to make sure that you can be present in that space. In turn, that's kind of like...
The other thing to add to that is like the low income ticket. This is probably the most common question I get emailed. Like, oh, like I'm a student, or like I don't know if I really qualify as low income. Like, if you feel like you benefit from that ticket, and buy that ticket. You're not taking it from anyone. The secret is I'll just make more low income tickets if we need more low income tickets. Like, and if it's still a barrier, just like send us a message. We had a program this year that we're really happy about where we paired local people to host people coming from out of town so that we could like do our best to maximize first of all the number of locals who are able to give locals a discount for hosting someone, and also like staying somewhere is probably the biggest cost of going to the conference, or like one of the big costs. So we have tons of things, and if there's just like anything, if you want to volunteer, if just something doesn't work for you in any kind of way, like, I don't know, we're humans, we're here to work with you on whatever it is.
Awesome. Yeah, I forget where I saw that, but it was definitely on the site that like you're trying to set up local hosting options for people if needed.
I did just remove it today because we finally tapped our last local host.
How many did you get? Like, how many people were you able to accommodate?
I think it ended up being like about 10 or 15 people.
Cool.
And I have really, if any of my local buds are watching, thank you guys so much. You're really like the muscle behind this. I've really tapped out my local social networks. And that's really fun because I get to like bring people in on both ends. So.
Rad. Let's talk about these venues. So
yes.
Yeah, what kind of spaces can we look forward to? Is this a maker space, I assume?
Yeah, so we, part of what we try to do is really incorporate all sides and all aspects of open hardware. So there are people coming from like an industry, there's people come from an academic setting, there's people coming from maker spaces and DIY spaces, and people who just like hanging out at home. So this year we really tried to kind of show that, and like, I mean, not only did we try to just jam pack every possible thing into the schedule, which we could talk about later, but we have two very, very different venues. So day one is at Concordia University. So I am a sessional faculty at Concordia. So I have been really lucky to be able to tap into some of the awesome networks of like human-computer interaction, research creation, cool open source art. All those folks at Concordia have been helping, be able to host this event there. So it's a university space, and yeah, it's great. It's one of the English language universities in Montreal. So yeah, awesome, exciting place. And then day 2 is going to be at L'Espace Maker, which is a community-oriented, very DIY space. I would call it the exact opposite of Concordia in every possible facet, which to me is great. I feel like it signifies our community. So L'Espace Maker is an awesome, huge, like old, like light industrial space that has just a ton of different workshops. They've got like electronics, they've got ceramics, they've got woodworking, laser cutters, you know, the whole thing. And they're in the middle of this renovation, expanding into the building next door, which is great for us. It means they have this like very bizarre space that like they are extremely good at making into weird things for weird parties. They've made it into like a maze and all kinds of weird stuff. It's so much fun. I love L'Espace Maker. Any Montreal locals, just can't recommend it enough. But they are going to be making it into a summit friendly space. We're going to have 4 rooms, and 2 of them are going to be like discussion spaces, so people can propose topics. Day 2 is mostly unscheduled, so it's going to be discussion groups, unconference, anyone can propose things. And then also there's going to be 2 parallel rooms of workshops. So these are all hands-on, like learn skills type things that you have to sign up for in advance. So the only reason I would say buy tickets early is just so that you make sure you can get a spot in one of the super cool workshops. So day 2 is like pretty asynchronous, and it's in this cool makerspace.
Awesome. Yeah, and let's take a look at the schedule real quick. First up, actually, so I remember getting the call for proposals, and I want to read through really quickly what you said you were looking for, and then we can take a look at what you ended up with, and I'd love to hear a bit about that process. So it said, for our 13th edition, we're especially looking for speakers who can offer insights on the current climate of open hardware. Some suggested areas of interest are outer space exploration and Earth observation, manufacturing processes and supply chains, craftwork, untold the craft, not the band, untold histories, speculative futures and experimental tech, art and design in open hardware, community engagement, process and iteration, but that you welcomed all proposals that do not cover these topics or cover other topics you're excited about. So yeah, how did that go?
That is a great question.
We got a lot of submissions this year, a lot of proposals. So it was a journey to figure out what we could fit. Lee happens to be like a professional schedule Tetraser.
Nice.
And can just like fit more things that seem to make sense in a time period into a day. And I mean this like legitimately, even in their personal life. If you spend one weekend with me, you're going to do more stuff in that weekend than you have done in like a month's time.
Like a time TARDIS.
Fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, we got over 100 submissions, and there are only so many spots. And one of the biggest challenges, honestly, was that like we have community members that come back. We want to feature them every single year. We also want to feature new people, and we also want to cover a variety of topics. So it was so hard to choose. In terms of like wish list of topics, I for the last few years I've really wanted to have. I mean, my research is about outer space tech, so I really wanted to have a panel on outer space. It did not pan out, but if anybody is listening,
I'm listening.
Next year I'm gonna push it again. So
Lee needs you guys to talk about space.
we need it.
But
the biggest theme this year by far was like upcycling, recycling, green tech. There are many topics on that, and we have a whole bunch of different workshops, including like we have some day 0 workshops for anyone who's like arriving early. So at this awesome place at Concordia University called the Center for Creative Reuse, which is basically just like a free store. Like you go in and you just like take what you want, and they take things from old like university faculties, from like students leaving, from like just like I don't know. I remember one time like part of the geography department was shutting down, and they had all these really cool maps. Sometimes they like get rid of science
Ooh.
equipment, just amazing, cool stuff. So you go in and you just say how much you would pay for it if you were to buy it, and then you get it for free.
I'm curious what they do with that information.
Yeah, I think it goes into a big spreadsheet, and then we decide, you know, they decide how much they could have made. Which is beautiful, and I love it.
I've been following a bunch of people doing like
a really fun thing about this workshop as well. A thing that we had come up a couple times throughout designing this schedule was that this is actually a composite group of two separate groups that proposed something kind of similar, and we were able to bring them together to make a larger group that was able to kind of bring their ideas together and create a workshop with each other in a new way, which is really a really fun part of the summit that we've seen occur a couple times, where we get to like find folks that have similar overlapping interests and bring them together and just kind of help them grow their networks with each other, and then also their external networks as far as how many people they can like get in contact and have present in the space. And that was like a really fun thing. We had that happen with this group. We also had that happen with our Vape Squad.
Vape Squad.
Yes, we have a Vape Squad this year. We're really excited about that. Actually, we had multiple people, like shockingly, but maybe not shockingly, we had multiple people come up with proposals based on reusing disposable vapes, because there's a very common problem where a lot of these disposable vapes have, you know, just
they got batteries and enclosures, and
yeah, they have batteries on them that don't need to be thrown out every time you're done with your vape or anything. So we're pretty excited about being able to help that come together in different ways. And like, so the Vape Squad is going to be doing it, which is this group here at 420.
Here we go.
Carrie Love, David Rio, Xuan Kai, and Becky Stern.
Awesome.
That they're going to talk about repurposing the batteries as well as making a vape synth. So that's pretty cool.
What?
I'm excited about that. Yeah. So
yeah.
I love this.
This is actually, since you mentioned my secret skill of being able to jam pack most people, this is like something we do like fairly often, like because there's just not enough time slots for everyone, and we do try to like pair people up. So there's a couple of workshops as well that just like we were able to like bring people together, and like sometimes bring people who are like maybe like a local with someone who's like out of town, and that way you can actually do a lot more. And it's just like really like our goal is to get as many people doing presentation slots as possible.
Yes,
the best way.
We've definitely got some cool people returning as well. And I want to mention that so up here also we've got Cedric Onet talking about fiber circuits. This is you know, I gotta plug our Instagram here. I do a bunch of like little short videos. I did a bunch of them at Open Hardware Summit last year. You can look forward to more. But also at SuperCon, I ran into my friend Cedric, who was showing off this thing that I couldn't say who was working on it at the time, but this tiny little Arduino, the Fiber Kits or Fiberduino, and I'm really excited about that talk. I cannot wait to see him talk about that. So it's going to be super cool.
Yes.
Yeah, we were pretty excited to have some continuation of like the e-textile talks that we had come up last year. So it's been really neat seeing kind of the development of what people are interested in the open source community, in the making community overall. And e-textiles are definitely here to stay. People want to keep working with them. That's very exciting.
And fear not, Lee, we do have a comment from Ben Strahan going, Space!
Ben gets it.
Ben, it's up to you.
Next year.
Next year. You have just volunteered.
Yeah, you're not required to submit a proposal, Ben. I hope you know that.
Sorry.
Absolutely. So yeah, check out the links in the description below for obviously this year, but also like, you know, follow Oshawa on all their medias for the future. Actually, speaking of which, let's go through that real quick. So we've got you have your YouTube channel. That's the wrong one. There we go. Open Source Hardware Association YouTube channel. You've got Oshawa on X. You've also got OH Summit for Open Hardware Summit specifically, Instagram, Oshawa, and of course
that's someone else's.
That is totally someone else.
Young family.
they seem really nice, but it's not us.
Well, I'm glad I put that in the description because I should have checked that before.
Association.
Yeah, Oshawa Association.
We were talking before the okay, yeah, I'll pull that up. We were talking before this session, and I was like, "Oh man, I usually pull up the social stuff before Oshawa." Clearly, I've done this before because it auto completed. Here we go. Oshawa Association.
We should invite them. We should reach out.
Yeah, they should come.
Absolutely.
Oh, you can also see our PCB there.
PCB, yeah.
As well as the totes, which are also gorgeous.
The totes are always gorgeous. I am so stoked about this bandana.
Oh, yeah, Lee actually designed it himself. So
so cool.
Secret skills.
Huge fan of that. Anyway, go follow Oshawa Association. I appreciate that you didn't. It is not Oshawa Association because, like with PIN number and ATM machine, that is the actual last word in the acronym. But anyway, cool stuff. Any other presentations? I mean, they're all going to be amazing. But anything else that? So we've got day 1 is largely talks. Day 2 is largely discussions, workshops, and unconference at L'espace Maker. And you mentioned that Discord sort of unconference happening on day 2 as well. Anything else we should know about the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, mostly just that well, a couple of things actually. We are publishing a handful of asynchronous talks that are online only.
Ooh.
So those will be released very soon. So you can look out on YouTube for those, and they are part of the conference. They're just like fully asynchronous. So they will all be released at the beginning of day 1, and anyone who would like to can go watch them. And the other thing too, this is also part of cramming as many people as possible. And on day 2, we are going to have like time for anyone to propose a session. So we have a handful of planned sessions, but like mostly it's going to be letting people propose what they want. And this is because last year at the end of day 2, we had like an hour of unconference time where we let people decide, and it was supposed to be 2 sessions, and we literally could not tear people away from each other to get them to go to another session. Everyone wanted to talk, so we're just gonna make it a whole day. It's just
good problem.
That's just what it's gonna be.
We kind of noticed that like so many ideas come up in people's minds throughout the day 1, and just like from hanging out with people at the socials the day before, getting to spend time with folks, you end up having all these ideas come up. So we wanted to make sure there was space where people could like actually sit down and talk about these things and talk with folks a little bit more seriously about it, instead of just being like casually like, oh, we had a bit of a chat, we don't really have time to get into it. This is like, you get to sit down and be like, oh, well, I saw like during Danielle Boyer's keynote talk on with the Scobots, I'm kind of really interested in discussing like other ways that we can create robots that work on language revitalization, or other things that we need to think about that a similar style of robot could do. And then you have that space to sit down and be like, okay, so like, what would that look like? How do other people feel about this? So it's really about like being able to make space for those conversations.
Yes, love that. Yeah, so a little bit, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how so one technique that you use in order to go from a bunch of proposals to the schedule is you have this amazing Tetrising ability. Sometimes you mash them together. Sometimes you change the format of the conference to accommodate like what people want to do. How do you choose? How do you narrow things down?
It's a great question. So we do have a somewhat formalized process. So we get all of the talks, we divide them up between like talks, workshops, tables, and we basically have like a scoring system. So we have usually our board members and a handful of other volunteers. If you watch the socials, often like sometime in between when we get like, if like submissions are due pretty soon, we'll ask for reviewers. So we basically just divide all of the talks into a bunch of different spreadsheets so that each talk gets reviewed 3 to 4 times. And then we just have a variety of criteria. So we talk about like uniqueness, relevance to the community, like depth, you know, like, have we seen this before? Is this new? And then we have a couple of other checkboxes. So we have one checkbox if they have self-identified as a community that's marginalized in tech. So we don't, we just have a checkbox. Like if you want to self-identify, you may use that box. And then we just try to see like generally like what kind of area they are. So if they're talking in like academia, or they're talking about like making and DIY, or if they're talking in industry, just so that we can get kind of an even spread. So then we bring all of those spreadsheets into one mega spreadsheet, and then we just see, we start off by seeing who comes up on top, but also we have like a bit of selection where, like we know people, or like someone's been there many times, or like, so like for example, someone who got really, really high scores, but they've spoken like the last 3 or 4 years, we'll be like, okay, like we know you, we know you're great, but we just need to like clear the stage for other people. So we do have like a quantitative process to a degree.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and like also that's like a huge thing for us, is like, as we love having return speakers, like we've had a lot of folks do the fellowship and then come back as a speaker the next year, or do the fellowship at the same time as being a speaker that year or running a workshop. But also a really big thing that we really love is getting to have people do their first talk or first workshop situation ever with us. We love being able to be that space for people where they can feel comfortable knowing that like it's going to be very supportive. We're going to be with them. We're going to make sure that they can have the best possible experience doing their first speaker gig or their first workshop gig. And we try and provide that support as much as we can. We really want people to know that like the summit isn't about being the #1 best maker in the world. It's about recognizing that like we all have strengths in different areas, and we're all experts in different ways. So being able to come forward and be like, you know what, I've never done this before, but I really want to talk about this topic. Like, we love to be able to support that. We love to be able to bring folks into the fold per se in that way, and have them be a part of the community in that way.
And we do like as needed, like informal mentorship if someone needs to like go over their talk, or they want to have like a little call and just like they're just like nervous, like how's it gonna go? Or like sometimes people, like myself included, it's like, what's it gonna be like? Is there gonna be what's the format? What's the number of people? Like how does this feel? And if people need to be like walked through that, or even just like go over an idea. Like sometimes before submissions close, I'll get like a bunch of people who want to have a little Zoom call and just like, I can't tell you if your talk will get accepted or rejected, of course, because we do this process, but like I can tell you what we normally look for and like give you feedback. And like if you've ever thought like, I don't know if I should submit, or I'm a little bit nervous, like send us an email.
Yeah. And also on top of that, like if you don't make it in the first time, if we just like can't figure out a way to Tetris you in because we're really pushing it to the max, you're always welcome to ask for some feedback on why your talk didn't get accepted that year. Because we also know that that's a huge part of the process of like knowing what can I do that will help my proposals in the future. Especially Lee and I are both folks who work very much in proposal land. We do a lot of submissions. We're both active working artists at the same time as being active OSHWA employees. So we're very used to that process. And we know that a lot of times you just get a rejection email and you're like, well, cool, I guess. But if you ever need feedback, we're happy to provide it.
Nice. And again,
one final note on that. I'm sorry, this is like a topic dear to my heart. It's just that like sometimes we don't accept you, and it's not because you're not great.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes there's just only so much space.
Only so much space. So just always please apply again, and please attend, because you're still valuable members of the community. And like this is above everything else. It's time for like community to be there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, want people to hang out.
Yeah.
And as always, since we brought up email again, the email address is summit@oshwa.org, and it's on the footer of every page of the Summit website. So, yeah, speaking of people getting involved in different ways, I would love to come back finally to that question about how you folks got involved with this. There's a lot of really interesting stuff here to dig into, but just looking at y'all's bios here, you can find them at 2024.oshwa.org. So many things. I noticed that like a lot of this process is about people, and it's very organic, and there's a lot of sort of squishing things around to make them fit. And I'm going somewhere with this, which is that Lee, you've done a lot of biohacking adjacent stuff. Dynacon, how do you say it?
Dynacon.
Dynacon. digital naturalism conference, which I've looked at really hard over the years, but never been able to make it work. And then like DEF CON Biohacking Village. Do you see any like overlap? I'd love to hear about your experiences with that and like how you ended up getting involved with the summit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have been doing maker space and making and DIY and sharing adjacent stuff for a really long time. I have a nonprofit organization called Little Data with my collaborator Hillary Predko. And oh, don't click on that link. It's really ugly website. Oh, shameful. Okay.
Should have put that in the don't talk about. I do ask him ahead of time.
So no, it's all good. It's been on my list to make that website not horrible. But for a long time, we have been, since 2014, we've been doing like DIY creative tech things and just like trying to find ways for people to be curious. And we used to run a conference called Make Change. So a little bit dorky, but it was really fun. And it was just like it was like kind of in the heyday of makerspace, 2014. And we were just like, how can we make things different? And we would always just like talk about like ways to share and like what, how we could do things better, what we're really doing well. And this was like a local Toronto, Canada kind of conference. We ran it for a long time, and it just got me, connected with so many people and realizing that like this is such a complex problem that we all just have to like talk about. And also above all else, that like also we just want a place to like nerd out about things. So I've been working in these spaces for a long time, and I just love to get my hands in all kinds of different things, like Dynacon Digital Naturalism Conference. I have helped with Sid is a co-organizer, and it's really spearheaded by Andy Quitmeyer. It's just like a totally wacky way to do cool electronics and science and DIY in like all kinds of weird places in the world. It's a lot of fun. So I just like got excited about that because it's just really weird, cool. And there's a lot of interesting people. And it's kind of the same thing with, you mentioned the biohacking village, at DEF CON. I just thought there was a lot of really interesting stuff going on and people discussing really interesting ways to engage with the body and technology. So I don't know, I feel like the thread that runs through everything is just like, if people are excited about technology in any way, I want to help connect them and I want to be a part of that. So I like to just stick my fingers in every single weird community and see how I can help. And it's been so much fun.
And I totally, I think I actually had Dynacon as I meant to ask Sid more about this as well, because it's definitely one of the main things that you're doing. Sid, what about your experience with running Dynacon, and has that sort of overlapped with your experience of pulling together another conference?
It's definitely like I've been doing conferences in general for quite a while. I guess I did my first one when I was 21.
Wow.
So, why did I do that? Let me be in
charge.
Unsupervised. When it comes to like the summit and Dynacon, there's actually like a lot of through lines as far as like a lot of the ideas that we have come up in both those spaces are like wanting to have extremely diverse backgrounds, extremely diverse knowledge in one space where people can really exchange knowledge and learn so much more from each other. It's less about, in a lot of ways, like, yes, building the schedule is a whole task in itself, but at the same time, it's like, even if we didn't have a schedule, even if it was just like, come hang out here for a couple days, like a lot of these conversations would just happen because a lot of them are, we're getting all these people with all these ideas, all these knowledges, and they're able to just like share it so freely. And that's like a really important part of it, of being able to like have folks together to talk. And I see that happen at Dynacon. I see that happen at the summit. It's really quite fun to be able to be in a space with a bunch of people that are just full of ideas and want to figure out ways to make something happen, no matter what it is. Especially like, I'm someone who comes at it from I come at it a lot more from a traditional art angle. I have actually very minimal experience with tech, and I'm very much learning as I go. And I think that a lot of times that means that I get to have a bit more of a curiosity with some of these things, where some folks might come in sometimes being like, oh, well, I already know how PCB works. I don't need to know, like, I'm over it. But a lot of times that might make you discredit something that, like, oh no, but you don't know how this PCB works. Like
Right.
this is doing something new or different, or playing with an idea that hasn't happened before. So being able to like do that with people is very exciting. Wow, I really hope I didn't tweet anything weird recently.
I just had to share that. Well, you made the choice to link it.
It's true.
I gave you the
I
chance.
don't think I have, so that's good.
Anyway, lots of interesting stuff.
But yeah,
Textiles, cyberpunk, and snails. Amazing.
yeah, my passions. I have at least 2 snail tattoos so far, so let's see
Nice.
how that ends up in a couple years.
Did y'all give talks at OHS before becoming organizers of the conference?
No.
Or after?
I was a fellow. I was a fellow in 2020. I was supposed to be a fellow when it suddenly quite dramatically went online because the world shut down. And I was a fellow that year, which was, you know, it was a wonderful opportunity, but at the same time, things got a little tricky because of everything going on. So from that experience,
online format.
when I came back, when I was asked to join the team and run the fellowship, I was like, okay, well, like I had a pretty good experience, but like I want it to be more. And that's how we ended up at this point where we have all these mentor talks leading up to the event. We try and make sure we secure a good stipend for folks to be able to get there and also work on some professional development. Like a lot of that was based on the idea of like, I was pretty stoked to get the fellowship in 2020, but I did notice that like we were not utilizing it to its fullest. So being able to step in and find ways to make it that it's like extremely engaging and beneficial for fellows going forward was really exciting for me. Like I love being able to do that. And I especially love that we keep having fellows come back and speak in the future or on the same year as their fellowship. Like this year we have Jasmine Liu is back. She was a fellow in 2021 or 2022 zoning. It was one of our online years. So this is actually going to be her first time getting to experience it in person. And her talk is actually one of our environmental based talks where she's talking about utilizing recycling in your electronic designs. So they've basically come up, her as well as some folks that she's doing research with have come up with this system to be able to find ways to integrate electronic waste into their work in the future. So, and like, that's so cool. I'm like so excited to have someone who went through the fellowship and enjoyed it enough that they wanted to propose a talk in a couple years later and come back and speak with folks and be able to like talk about what's changed since she was with us as a fellow.
So just to clarify, because I was a little unclear on this before, there is the Oshawa Trailblazers Fellowship. I think that's more focused on people who are like in academia.
Yeah, so we did actually shift some things. So we, a little bit confusing, but we did rename that one. So now we're calling that the Open Hardware Creators in Academia Fellowship.
Okay,
so
cool.
That one is a bit more extended. We usually look at about a full year with folks in academia that are exploring open source in different ways. Our first run of it was doing purely US-based schools just to make sure we knew how to run things properly. And then we're hoping to secure funding to do an international call in the next little while. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And that's generally just so that we can make sure that people who are in academia and starting to butt up against the kind of the academic need for proprietary knowledge to exist and kind of explore what if you aren't doing it that way? What if you want things to be accessible? What if you want it to be open? So one of our really exciting outputs from that, from OCA in the first edition of it, was our enabling practices document that's on the OCA website right now. And that's like a really good starting point for folks that are in academia and trying to figure out, okay, like I want to continue to do this thing, but my university or my college is making it complicated because there's all these rules around proprietary use, or like there's a lot of really messed up rules, in my opinion, around doing fellowships or internships where, because you're interning at a certain place, anything you come up with during your time there is considered theirs, not yours.
Right.
So that's something that like we see come up a lot, where you know, people are having all these wonderful ideas and then they're getting trapped in weird rules around what they can and can't share. So yeah, the enabling practices document is a really good place to start thinking about like, okay, so how do I actually do this in a way that's open source and I don't get tied down by academia's need to own things.
Yeah, I would love to pull that up for people and maybe put it in the description, but I'm kind of failing at finding that, but maybe we'll put it in the description afterwards. So we are coming up to the top of the hour. We've got a time constraint, so I want to wrap up for y'all. I've got one quick question for each of you that's a little bit shallow, but okay, so Sid, this photo of you, what's going on here?
What
is this?
This is actually the required dress code.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna kick you out. That is actually from Dynacon in I guess it's been 2 years now. During Dynacon in Sri Lanka, I was working on a project of doing a practical effects monster that was only utilizing plants. And it was fun. I had to alter some of my ideas. That's kind of a part of Dynacon. You go in with an idea and then things change.
Right.
You get busy. There's always so much happening. So, and that is the result. That is me being a weird little monster. And it is also the most high-res photo I have of myself.
I see. So then Lee, even more shallow. I'm just curious. You got a sweet green pair of glasses in this photo. You got a sweet red pair of glasses today. How many of these do you have?
It's a great question. It's very important. Actually in like a glasses transition right now. This is my first day wearing these, so you know, I'm pretty excited about it.
There you go, guys. Exclusive first look.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not all about fashion, but it is one can't ignore it. Okay, so is there anything y'all would like to throw in there before we wrap up here? Just anything that you'd like to put an extra little punctuation mark on?
I mean, I think mostly if anyone is like feels like if you're super experienced in open source hardware, we want you at the summit because you've got great ideas. Maybe you've never been to a summit before. Maybe you've been to every summit before, and we would love to continue to have your voice in our community and like for you to be a part of the community and share all the things that you know and like help everyone learn and just like discuss things and expand on ideas. And the same thing if you just like are curious about open source hardware, or you're not sure if you're on the edge of the community, maybe you're an artist, maybe you're a student, maybe you're like a new graduate, maybe you're still studying, maybe you've never went to any kind of school, you just think hardware is super cool. We also want you at the summit. I think this is a really good opportunity for people who are in Canada to kind of come together. So that's really what I've been pushing. I've been trying to email as many Canadian makerspaces and communities as possible. So if you have a group of people that you would like to see at the summit and you think maybe they have not been reached out to, or you know would like to just see more of them, you can send me an email, tell me who you think we should be bothering to attend. And if there's any barriers for you attending, also send us an email and we'll see what we could do about it, because we want all kinds of humans who are excited about this topic.
Awesome.
Which is a really broad topic, by the way. It's like such a broad topic. Any physical matter can be open hardware. So
yeah. SparkFun made this shovel, SHOVEL spork thingy one year, which I think was actually in one of the swag bags, which you can see the previous ones on our YouTube channel playlist, which I'll show again real quick. But there was a really cool open hardware, basically a spork made of metal, and they had all the designs and like manufacturing techniques be open source. Super cool. We've got like 1 minute left. I really want to make space for Sid. Any final things to throw in there?
I guess I just really want to highlight the Indigenous attendance option. One of the
Yes.
things that we decided really early on, while having Danielle Boyer as our keynote speaker, is that we were like, it just doesn't feel right that Indigenous people wouldn't be able to access this talk and the rest of the summit as easily as possible. So we want to remove that cost barrier and make sure that we can have these folks in these spaces because, I mean, Danielle is a testament to incredible knowledge that exists and can be shared and can be brought to these spaces, even though a lot of folks might think at times that it is different knowledge than what you might learn in academia or in industry. Like, this is important to have in our spaces and important to remember that like there's knowledge that has been carried for generations that can be in these spaces and can make an impact and have important change, and making sure that Indigenous folks and all people have access to STEM, STEAM, all aspects of open source, and kind of like the original idea of open source being like literally just share your knowledge is important. So making sure that Indigenous folks can be at the conference and participate to the fullest was really important to us. And so like, yeah, if you're Indigenous, utilize that ticket option. Get out there, come join us, and like we really want you to be a part of this community.
For sure. And just double noting on this page, if you're joining us live, you get first access to the Hackster exclusive Hackster Love discount code, which is 15% off of your ticket. If you are using an Indigenous ticket, or if you're a virtual attendee, that's 15% off of free. And then also there's all these other options where you can get a 15% discount for just put in the Hackster Love exclusive discount code. Go check out all the links in the description. Thank you so much to our illustrious guests for joining me. What a delight. Can't wait to see you in about just over like a month, May 3rd to 4th in Montreal, Quebec, in a couple of really cool venues. Thank you everyone for joining us, and hack on. Yeah.